Yeah, you just want me to go ahead and unplug the XLR from the back? Alright. Copy, Steve. Am I good to hop down and check that? I can lock off 4. All right.
Kenny's kind of in the middle. Here we go. Come on now. This ain't done. Come on. I'll tell you what, I'm down, man. Hey, I'm on the roof.
Don't do that.
Not again. Stay alert.
Yeah, not again.
Stay alert.
It's okay. I'm moving that way. So if I move that way and it comes at me again, at that point, I think I'm being targeted. You know, at that point.
Remember that one, Frank? Shortstop. You hit it to him. Get the camera out up top. Stay there, Frank, until I feed you at home plate. Then we'll walk train car and we're out of here. You look good. No, you look good now. You look awfully good. If I didn't look like that when I'm your age, Frank, I would be one happy man. Oh, get out of here. American Idol singer. I think it was yeah, I do. That's why you count me. You have to know shy. You're on the green.
He likes like coffee house music. Mellow.
Store and sell it, baby.
And we welcome everyone to the 2023 Sophomore National Showcase Workout Day here at the East Cobb Complex in Marietta, Georgia, along with Dave Ronsley. I'm Steve Lennox. Dave Ronsley now in his 21st year as a scout with Perfect Game and his 34th year as a scout across baseball as well. Dave, we were delayed at the start for the Sophomore National Showcase, but we're about to get underway. The 60s have been run from what we understand for the 6 teams participating. So we'll see outfield, infield, first baseman, pop times, and we'll see 4 groups in batting practice. I think we have that down for this early Thursday evening in Marietta.
Yeah, well, actually right now, teams 4 through 6 are running the 60 on another field. We're trying to compress the schedule here. We lost about 3.5 hours as a string of rainstorms moved through the North Atlanta area and sort of set us back. So we're going to see the full infield drills here on PGTV, and then we're going to see 4 of the teams in BP. The other 2 teams will take batting practice tomorrow morning. That would be teams 1 and 2.
Dave, obviously this field drains very well, but kind of give us an idea. The rain out in the last hour or so, but are they still going to endure slick conditions here, at least for the next hour or so, as we take a look at our first outfielder for Team Black?
I wouldn't think so. These are state-of-the-art fields. I think there might be a little bit of water still on the field naturally. We've got a full bucket of balls. I don't think grip on balls or anything like that is going to be a problem. I think this is going to be a very representative workout, as compared to doing it, under completely dry conditions.
We're watching Micah Patterson, Lee Summit High School, Lee Summit, Missouri. This is the class of 2026. These are young men that will be going into their sophomore year of high school come late summer, early fall.
Yeah, before I think if you've been watching all week, we're tuned into these are 16-year-olds. Well, these are 15-year-olds. Micah Patterson, who you just saw, 15 years, 5 months. And it's turned down your expectations a bit as far as velos, as far as 60 times, as far as velos on the mound. And you'll be right in sync, although you'll see some pretty impressive times nonetheless.
Kason Carley up next. He is a TCU commit. That is a verbal commit. These are the players who are no longer able to talk with Division I college baseball programs until August, going into their junior year. So they're still well off from that timing.
In fact, you look down the list of commitments from this class, just on the 6 teams here, there are percentage-wise maybe more than there were in the 2025 class. It's kind of a stunner, but that's why that new legislation was adopted, because recruiting was just going down too low in the age groups, and something had to be done to stop it, and I tip my cap to the coaches and the athletic directors to do something about it.
Kason Carley from the outfield wrapping up here is Bo Peterson, another commit with the verbal commit to Nebraska. Young man from Shawnee, Kansas, rated number 1 overall in the state of Kansas, both as a catcher and the national rating for perfect game. He goes 6'2", 190.
Yeah, and there's the kind of athleticism there with Bo Peterson, a 13U Select Festival player, a 14U Select Festival last year, that would lead you to believe that, hey, maybe he's going to end up in the outfield at another position other than catcher just because of that athleticism and the high ceiling bat.
Dave, over the course of your years in scouting, has that conversation changed in terms of guys moving from out behind the plate to a position based on their athletic ability, or is it still relatively the same in terms of it's time for, and what are those things that kind of go into that consideration too? Is it the catching skills defensively, or are there other things that factor in?
I think it changed because of one player, quite simply, and that would be Bryce Harper. I think that was not something that was thought about before Bryce Harper. If you are a catcher, and catchers are so hard to find, and that's historically always been the case. But Bryce Harper was so talented, and the offensive ceiling was so much higher, obviously, if he didn't catch. It completely changed the paradigm that scouts looked at these young players who were catchers.
Takashi Rutherford from San Juan Capistrano, California. J. Sarah Catholic High School, touted as the number 4 outfield prospect in the state of California for the class of 2026. We see his top velocity at 91 miles an hour. So that brings up a question for me. If Bryce Harper had been drafted by another organization outside the Washington Nationals, do you think there would have been another organization to be patient with him in terms of developing him in the minor leagues as a catcher?
No, I really don't think so. I think it was such a universal conversation that he was so advanced offensively that there was no reason to keep him in the minors so long to, quote, develop him. He was already developed. He was developed athletically and especially developed as a hitter, and history has certainly proven that out. So, no, I think anybody, I can't say all 30 teams, but I would think a vast majority of them would have taken the same route. And I think his representatives and his family would have maybe insisted on doing it as a condition of joining an organization.
Nolan Romilly, 6'1", 185, from Palos Park, Illinois. Top velocity, 86 miles an hour. And now we get a look at Savion Sims from Edmond, Oklahoma. Sims, an Oklahoma commit.
6'6", 180 pounds. What's going to happen? You have no idea. Savion just turned 16, actually, but you have no idea how that body's going to develop over the next few years. It looks like he'd be very at home on a basketball court, but how tall he might end up being 6'10", for all we know. And how does that play in a baseball sense? It'll be fun watching, because he's a very talented young athlete, certainly.
We see the number 27. You say, okay, 6'6" now. I think 6'7". That's Aaron Judge. But I see the 27, and I think Vladimir Guerrero Sr. Xavion Sims from the outfield, 88 miles an hour. Team Black wrapping up. Now we advance to Team Gray for the first time. 6 teams, and they'll play 2 games apiece over the next 2 days. We'll have 3 games on Thursday, 3 games wrapping up the Sophomore National Showcase on Friday. As we take a look at Maddie Blanusa.
And Steve, you asked during the drills for the junior national with the 16-year-olds, what was the throw times, the velocity times that makes you pay attention and look and stuff? And I believe I said 88 was the number that we kind of select out, and I would move that down maybe to 85 or so with this younger group. We've seen 88, we've seen 91. I haven't seen every one of these numbers, but I would say 85. Hey, 92 there right now from the young primary right-handed pitcher. But 85 would be the number that, hey, okay, that kind of stands out a bit.
Lanusa going through. We see Hunter Harrington, Stanford commit. For Team Gray.
Harrington's twin brother, Alex. We'll see in the infield portion of the workout. Alex is the 6th ranked overall prospect in the class, and I have never seen Hunter and Alex not on the same team at a PG showcase. They travel together, and they're both committed to Stanford as well.
We have the Harrington twins. They're actually a set of triplets here. 2 brothers, 1 sister. But the 2 boys in the set of triplets are here as well. Hunter Harrington wrapping up, and now we see Ryan Harris. What had you chuckling there? I have to ask.
The hat falling off and him kicking it aside.
Okay.
The hat. I don't know whether there was glasses on top of the hat at 5:30 on a rainy day afternoon. I don't know why a player would have his sunglasses with him, but with that flow that Harris has, a hat might not have been a good idea to start.
Ryan Harris, 6'2", 185, touted as the #1 outfield prospect for the class of 2026 by Perfect Game. And the state of Illinois, number 3 overall in the state, and number 71 nationally. Another 92, another number above 90. Jackson Matthews now going for Team Gray from Davidson, North Carolina. He's a Clemson commit with head coach Eric Bakich. Matthews, 6'3", 180 pounds, and just turned 16.
Has the same basic hair as Ryan Harris. And the same hat problems.
Throws initially go to third base, and then throws go to home plate from the outfielders. They throw from right field, and right now they're getting in their exit velocities. Got behind that one, offline to the plate up the first base side, and we'll see the number coming for Jackson Matthews, 94.
You saw the notation under that for the excuse me, the record for this event is 95, set last year by Jackson Roper, who threw 97 the other day at the Junior National Showcase.
Teferi from Cedar Grove, New Jersey, outfielder, right-handed pitcher, class of 2026. He's 5'11", 175. Teferi is touted as the number 4 outfield prospect for the class of 2026 in New Jersey, 14th overall. And $3.99 nationally for Matthew Teferi. See him get behind the throw there. Again, the class of 2026, we're watching sophomores for the upcoming school year. And we say upcoming knowing that graduations are still going on across the country, certainly with Northeast schools where Teferi's from the state of New Jersey. Up next, we've got Christian Doty from Olive Branch, Mississippi. Mississippi commit as an upcoming sophomore. And Caleb Doty participating in the junior national showcase over the previous couple of days. That wrapped up earlier this morning with a couple of games on the schedule amidst the raindrops. Caleb Doty and Christian Doty both wearing number 24. That helps us out a lot. There's Caleb right there, Team Gray. And again, part of the junior national showcase. And now we see Max Hamilton from Olathe, Kansas, right-handed pitcher, primary position. 138 national ranking from Perfect Game for the class of 2026.
Caused me to look right into his height and weight. That's a strong 15-and-a-half-year-old at 6'2", 205. A lot of that in his upper body.
For the junior national showcase, we did highlight the 60-yard dash, as Dave alluded to early on. They're running the 60 on a different field here at the East Cobb Complex. Max Hamilton wrapping up, picking up the hat, the sunglasses, and moving on. 89 from the outfield. Daniel Giuliani from Trinity, Florida, right-handed pitcher. A3 Academy.
I believe this is 28 Chase Wilk, Steve.
Oh, okay. I apologize. My 8 and 9 crossed up. Wilk from Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's listed primarily as a first baseman. Again, 6 teams total. And Wilk completing his process from the outfield, 74 miles an hour. His top velocity. Now Daniel Giuliani. So we have Daniel Giuliani on our roster as number 29 for Team Gray. And I mentioned with Wilk up there from Trinity, Florida, and a right-handed pitcher.
And listed at 6'4", 225, and that looks like, from eyeballing it, exactly what number 29 Gray looks like. And looking at his picture from previous events, I'm confident that's Daniel Giuliani.
So Giuliani wrapping up here. Team Navy to follow. Again, 6 teams total. Team Navy followed by Team Red. If you're following along with us on the rosters on perfectgame.org, Royal and White as well. As we'll go through all 6 teams for outfield. After the outfield round is complete, they'll move to the shortstop position for the infielders and anyone who does want to take and get their readings from the infield. This is Ethan Bass from Northbrook, Illinois commit in the Big Ten.
Ethan, a primary shortstop, ranked 16th in the class overall. He's about as bouncy as you're going to get athletically and just in his energy level.
Looking forward to those feet not stopping when he's on the infield in a little while.
He'll be the same. I'm confident.
Not to go through every player, but are there a handful of players that you have seen prior in person at events for Perfect Game, Dave, with this class of 2026?
Most definitely, Steve, that there are a number that I have, whether it be at a 13 or 14U national showcase, mostly because I don't believe I've broadcast any of the festival games as getting a Bass getting a 93 on that outfield throws. But yeah, I didn't do the festival broadcast for this group, either their 13 or 14 years, and so I am not as up to date on them as I would be with another class, but I've seen them in a couple national events before this, so there's some familiarity. But I'm going to be learning along with you a lot the next 2 days.
John Dolan, Mizzou commit. Mizzou with a new head coach going forward. Carrick Jackson taking over for Steve Beezer. And the verbal commit now, it's the verbal commit. They have not signed their national letter of intent. And this is the class with the new legislation, the new rules in place. These players will not be able to actually have straight on and direct conversation with Division I baseball programs until August of their junior year. So come August 1, they'll still be a year away from doing that. Just before August 1, going into their junior year is when those conversations can go again. So we're in that process of having conversations as we take a look at Judson Dowell. But those conversations were cut off. We just saw the junior national showcase and a lot of players with commits, but they won't be able to open up until August 1. So they're still about a handful of weeks away from that process starting up again.
Top throw there, 90 miles an hour.
Logan Fernandez from Chicago, Illinois. Got a lot of players so far running through our first 2+ teams from that Chicago, Illinois area. Doing Little League events in the past, there always seems to be that Midwest team from that Chicago area. So we saw that one get through Fernandez. Are they evaluated on a bobble or a ball that just gets straight through them?
It depends more on the nature of the bobble. If we're on turf, if they're on a dirt field and there's some bobbles, it's more understandable. If they're fielding the ball way off to the side and they're sweeping their glove, that's a big negative because they don't have the fundamentals yet in the outfield. If they're coming straight in and have good glove position and get it between hops, and they do that maybe more than once in a round, that's something that's noticed and evaluated. And of course, at younger ages such as this, I really think the last fundamental that young players learn is outfield footwork and outfield glove position. It just doesn't seem to be taught at the younger levels as much as maybe infield fundamentals or catching fundamentals and, of course, hitting fundamentals. And I think they kind of leave outfield for last. So I don't tend to be as harsh in an evaluation type sort of way with young outfielders as I would be if they were juniors or seniors.
Jacob Harms, 6'3", 170 pounds from Irving, Texas. Ranked number 250 overall nationally for the class of 2026 by Perfect Game. Number 6 right-handed pitcher in the state of Texas. Number 28 overall in the Longhorn State. So we're told that this is our final outfielder as we look at Malachi Washington from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Number 56 national ranking by Perfect Game for the class of 2026. Malachi Washington, 6 foot, 185 pounds, pardon me. East Cobb Astros, 15U team, Texas Orange. So after Washington completes his throws from the outfield, we'll get his velocity. Pause for a quick timeout as players make the transition to the infield. Malachi Washington picking up the sunglasses, 88 from the outfield. And as Dave alluded to earlier, that's a number that certainly you take notice of, and worthy of that as well. We saw some pretty good readings here, and a handful that were above 90. We'll touch on the outfielders, and we'll have the infield throws from across the diamond from shortstop when we continue right here on PerfectGame.tv. And we continue from the Sophomore National Showcase Workout Day. The 6 teams participating will be heading off to play games over the next 2 days as we take a look at our infield. And this is Mr. Dowdy getting his throws in.
This would be Caleb Dowdy, who was a member of the Junior National Showcase. Was not able to get his workout in, working out first day here, in part because his brother is here playing in the Sophomore National Showcase.
That's Christian. This is Caleb. Christian wears number 24 for Greg. Who did we see from the outfield?
Pardon me? We saw Christian.
I believe we saw
outfield.
Christian from the outfield earlier.
Yes,
okay.
yes, we did.
Philip Chong as we get underway with Team Black for the sophomores in the class of 2026. Chong did not throw from the outfield.
Every one of these infielders gets, just like the outfielders, 5 balls. The first one's hit right at them. Then he gets 2 in the hole to his backhand. He gets 1 up the middle. And then finally on the 5th ball, it's a charging throw.
Philip Chong for the class of 2026, ranked number 1 shortstop, number 3 overall for Ontario, Canada. Ronan McCraw from Magnolia, Texas, Texas A&M commit. Primary position, shortstop. Dave, when we had the junior national workouts over the previous couple of days, they got underway here in Marietta on Saturday. And some pitchers would take outfield, some pitchers would take infield. Some catchers would be in the outfield, some catchers would take infield. Will primary infielders right now at this level only take infield similar to the outfielder? Because we didn't see a lot of guys go through the outfield throws initially.
No, it's a mixed bag. And I think you'll see more pitchers throwing from all the positions, particularly outfield and infield, than you would at a normal event for 2 reasons. First of all, these players are still young, and young players play multiple positions far more frequently than the older players. As you get older, you tend to specialize positionally more and more. And second of all, they're not scheduled to pitch today. So any player that goes through the drills doesn't have to pitch today. So he really doesn't have to worry about his arm, getting tired as much as he would if the workouts were on the same day as the first games.
Gavin Hodel wrapping up. Hodel from Irvine, California, TCU commit, Orange Lutheran High School for the Lancers, and head coach Eric Borba. Now we see Cameron Jackson going for Team Black. Jackson, Georgia Premier Academy, Decatur, Georgia, South Carolina commit. Keaton Nail now going for Team Black. Number 18, Spring Hill High School, Olathe, Kansas. Shortstop, again, primary position. It's an area we talk Florida, California, Texas, Georgia, Arizona. But Oklahoma has always been a state where you get big pitchers, and Kansas really on the map. I don't know, would you say Kansas, more last decade?
Yeah, I think definitely. Kansas is my son lives in Olathe, Kansas, actually, and from visiting that area frequently over the years, much like Shawnee, Kansas, south side of Kansas City is really a booming place that I don't think a lot of the people in the country realize just how booming, especially the southwestern part of Kansas City is. And with that kind of facilities and opportunities, baseball tends to follow. And it has definitely happened, I think, in the last 10 years or so in the South Kansas City area.
And it's interesting you bring that up because the Athletic in recent weeks, and here is Eli Dickey. And Dave, we talked about Eli's dad during the Junior National Showcase. He is the son of former big league pitcher R.A. Dickey. And R.A. Dickey is now the pitching coach at Christ Presbyterian Academy, where Eli attends. Young man from Franklin, Tennessee.
And also is the coach of his son's travel ball team.
That's great. I did the little, I was Google smart earlier today. We had a little extra time. First time I've ever waited out a rain delay in my own home. That was interesting. I got some stuff done that wasn't baseball related, but I looked up Eli, I looked up R.A. Dickey and the connection initially, and confirming and talking to you via text messages. And there was an article from a handful of years ago in the New York Times as we take a look at Jackson Wood. The New York Times had chronicled R.A. Dickey climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and there was a family picture, and Eli was in there at the age of 5. It was a nice color family picture online with the online article. Matty Blanusa threw from the outfield, now on the infield, going through the drills and tracking his radar readings from his shortstop position.
So it's going to be exciting to see what he throws tomorrow or Friday.
Judson Dowell up next, Texas A&M commit, Houston, Texas, and Lamar High School. Number 2 outfielder for the class of 2026 in the state of Texas. Number 17 overall, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Throws right, bats right. Archie Horn up next, Stanford commit.
Yeah, Steve, I was looking down the list of the commits here. And I think it points to what the coaches and athletic directors were trying to put a stop to. And I don't mean to pick on Stanford here because, you know, Stanford is as close to my heart as any school in the country, having grown up in the Bay Area. But there are 4 Stanford commits at this. And that implies that Stanford was committing players before they put together any sort of high school academic record. And I'm just curious how that works when you're talking about a school that is so demanding academically, and you're committing freshmen before they've even posted probably their first GPA in their first semester of studies. I just wonder about that, and I think that's one of the root things that they were, you know, considering is how are we judging players not only athletically but academically when we're committing them that early.
Drew Messi wrapping up. Now we see Jack Ryan. I thought that the other day with Stanford commits and Vanderbilt commits as well, of you're projecting the baseball side of it here, but academically in the classroom there almost has to be legacy behind them, I think, or something that allows the coaching staffs to say, yes, we can, you know, this is going to work for us on both sides.
Yeah, because if you put in a young man into a position that he's going to struggle academically, he's going to struggle on the field, and it's not a good investment for the school, and it's certainly not a good investment for the young man and his family to make.
Jack Duggan up next from Nashville, Tennessee. Number 6 overall in the state, Tennessee commit. Number 1 shortstop. Overall ranking for perfect game, 254. That is nationally for the class of 2026.
Now, there was a All-American, perfect game All-American 2 years by the name of Ryan Snellings, left-handed pitcher, I believe went in the second round of the draft last year. And he was originally committed to Stanford for both football and baseball. And his quote when he decommitted from Stanford is he said, I know I can play Stanford level baseball. I know I can play Stanford level football. I know I can do Stanford level academics. I also don't think I can do all 3 at the same time. So that academic consideration is very real on a school like Stanford, Duke, Vanderbilt, probably another number of teams like that, schools like that.
Peter Coco from Allen, Texas, right-handed pitcher primarily. Perfect game rating, top 1,000 wrapping up. And we've gone through our first 3 teams here with Team Black, Team Gray, and Team Navy. These players and the first baseman will have their throws across the diamond when we continue after this timeout on perfectgame.tv. And we continue now with the first baseman, Steve Lennox, Dave Ronsley. Glad you're with us. East Cobb Baseball Complex, Sophomore National Showcase from Marietta, Georgia. And Dave, let's revisit. What are we looking at from the first baseman as they go across the diamond here?
General athletic actions. It's going to be a little different for right-handers from left-handers, since left-handers have a, fairly strong advantage. I actually, the best way to scout first baseman isn't necessarily in this drill. It's watching them pick throws during infield, and that's something we actively do. But probably the favorite thing to watch is how their feet work when they're throwing to second base. Do they make that swivel, that turn? Are they balanced? And do they make accurate throws to second base? Because that's the play they're going to be called upon most of any of these examples here to make in a real baseball game.
Dave, as we go through the first baseman here, Johnny Carver up for Team Black. Take us through, for a family that is thinking about attending a perfect game showcase and the events throughout the course of a calendar year and across the nation.
Well, it really divides itself into two aspects. There is, of course, you're playing for your travel team, and I'm a big believer in playing for the best travel organization you can, the players that are going to challenge you. Don't play for the most comfortable one, the one that I know I can start and bat cleanup on, because the whole idea is you want to try to get better, and so you want to play on the best travel team you can. As far as showcases go, I think it's a matter, and I had this discussion with a dad out in front of the hotel 2 days ago about his son, about being physically ready for that level. We see a lot of kids, coming to the younger showcases who just aren't physically ready for that 60-90 field, or who for some reason aren't ready to compete and be put under the microscope, because that's what you are at a perfect game showcase, whether it's a national level event or a regional level event. And so let's just make sure your son is ready to compete at that level, that he's serious about baseball, that he can handle the 60-90 field if he's a 13 or 14-year-old. And then it can be the best baseball experience of your life, and really a very encouraging event for you.
Now, I recently watched a documentary on sorority life at Alabama. I don't know if you're up on that one or not. I watched it with my wife. We found it very interesting. But there are coaches, and we know there are travel ball coaches. There are individual coaches for the game of baseball. Do individual coaches, do travel ball coaches get players ready for what they're going to what they're going to have to do in terms of these drills? You are going to take the 5. You're going to do this. They're going to move you around. There's going to be a lot of standing around. Do those coaches sort of allow themselves to be a part of that process to say, okay, you're going to your first showcase. These are the things you're going to have to go through?
I strongly doubt it, because often
really? Okay.
The travel coaches, depending on the schedules and stuff, are often the ones that where perfect game is in conflict with to get players to showcases, because the travel teams have their schedules, and if Johnny Smith says, hey, I'm going to miss next weekend's games because I'm going to the perfect game Mid-Atlantic top prospect showcase, the coach, depending on the coach, some coaches are great about it, some coaches are not as great about it, so that's something where there is actually a little bit of conflict there. But I think it's up to the player himself, whether it's be with his family, with some of his teammates, to say, hey, we know what we're doing at a perfect game showcase. We know the drills. They're out there for everybody to see. We're going to go practice them, or have somebody in their other baseball community, maybe the high school assistant coach, somebody who can go out and run them through the drills. Hey, 10 swings of BP. Okay, here's how you run a 60, et cetera, et cetera.
Our first baseman going through. We'll see the catchers with the pop times following this. Then we'll get into the second half of our teams with Team Red going back to the outfield. The outfielders will throw, then the infielders, the first baseman will go through it all again with Team Red, Team Royal, and Team White. And then we'll have our rounds of batting practice. Do we know the groupings for BP that will follow the infield and outfield? On-field workouts here?
We're going to see 4 teams, and it's going to start with with the Navy team, Team 3, Team 4 the red, Team 5 the royal, and Team 6 the white, because tomorrow morning the first game that was scheduled at 8 o'clock has been moved back till 9 o'clock, and then we're going to see Team Black number 1, and Team Gray number 2 play at 9 o'clock, and they will take their batting practice and grade it out on that starting at 8 o'clock before their game.
I was quite confident that you'd have the answer and draw that out for us the way you did, in fine fashion. So now the catchers are up. Just looking down Team Navy. 3 catchers on the roster. Now, how do they put the rosters together for these events, for the showcase events? We've got half the number of teams for the Junior National Showcase, 12 teams and 300-plus players, give or take. And here you've got rosters that are anywhere from 17, 18, 19 players. But how is the roster constructed for the sophomore showcase that we're seeing here?
I would say there are about 80%. Well, for an event like this with only 6 teams, it's about 80 to 90% random. Sometimes you'll have a team that maybe there are 6 or 7 players from the same travel team on the team, and you'll naturally put them together. You have Alex and Hunter Harrington. They're going to be on the same team, trust me. But a lot of it is just by positional need. You have 6 teams. Ideally, you have 2, sometimes 3 catchers on a team, and you're going to have 2 or 3 catchers on a team. So if you have 15 catchers who've made the commitment to come here, who you've invited, you're going to split them up evenly. Same thing with pitchers. You have 16 innings per team that you have to account for. So you're going to try to distribute the pitching evenly. And it's a little jigsaw puzzle that, the PG staff, showcase operations staff is pretty used to putting together that jigsaw puzzle. A little bit different every time, but fundamentally the same.
We're getting our first catcher up here and a glimpse of Max Heineman from Bloomington, Illinois. University High School. Ranked number 202 nationally by Perfect Game for the class of 2026. Again, just mentioning one more time, these will be sophomores come late summer, early fall across the nation. Anthony Grippo up next. Grippo from Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, primary position, right-handed pitcher, Greensburg Central Catholic High School. Dave, let's visit here what you're looking for in terms of the catchers.
The catchers, especially at this age group, all think we're looking at the pop time, where that might be the last thing we're actually looking at. For instance, Anthony Grippo is, by lining up in that severe side saddle, is doing himself no favors in the evaluation, because we want to see game actions, because that enables us to evaluate what you're going to look like in the game. He'll never line up like that in the game, and so that pop time is worthless. We want to see how your lower body life is, how quickly you come out of your crouch, how quick your feet are, what your transition is from glove to hand to your throwing motion, your exchange, your transfer. And yes, arm strength is important, but just as important is how accurate your throws are. If you're scattering balls into the right center and left center field gap because you're trying to throw as hard as you can, that doesn't do anything to help our evaluation. So the most important thing, and if you are a young catcher out there listening to this, do the game actions. What you put on your social media page about your pop time is basically irrelevant to your evaluation. And that's the same thing with Perfect Game scouts or college coaches or professional scouts or anybody who might be looking at you now and in the future.
Addison Latko, Park Ridge, Illinois commit. Paul College Prep High School.
And thank you for letting me pontificate for a moment, Steve.
Absolutely. I'll drop one of those in there, certainly. Hey, this is our second year together, and last year was sort of a whirlwind, I'll admit. But now I know how to put notes together immediately following an event. So I was able to scribble down some notes last night and put them on the player pages that I've printed out. But I've also taken a lot of notes just from you in terms of individuals that you've sort of, the coaches with Perfect Game that are out there. that are part of it. And just getting some of those names down and being more familiar with them. I'm going to do some research on your two guys, Rico Billups and Lloyd Thompson, at some point.
The best way to do
and I might be coming to you for that.
The best way to do research on them is to go out to dinner with them, because they're two of the most wonderful dinner companions you can ever find, along with being the two of the best batting practice pitchers ever.
Liam Onafry up next for Team Gray. So immediately following our first three teams going through, Team Black, Team Gray, Team Navy, we'll go back to the outfield. Do I have that right now?
You have that exactly correct. And we will see the
we'll
first outfielder from the Red 4 team will be the first player we see.
John Stowers, Auburn commit, Mobile, Alabama. So if he ends up on a college campus and he keeps that verbal commit down the road, he'll stay right in his home state. It's interesting as we were wrapping up with the outfielders and you were touching on the young man. I can play baseball in the Pac-12. I can play baseball at Stanford. I can play football in the Pac-12 at Stanford. I can compete academically in the classroom at Stanford. Putting those three together. And at a young age, for these young men going into their sophomore year, you think you have an eye on an SEC school, an ACC school right off the top. And nowadays, and talking with so many college coaches over the last couple of years, how much do you envision these young men taking into consideration that, you know, you're a long way off. We know that. But when you get to campus as a 17 or 18 or 19-year-old young man in a first year on a college campus, you're now competing against guys on your own squad, let alone an SEC, ACC opponent that are 22, 23, 24 years old. Now that's going to sort of die down in the coming years, but we're still going to see it, and they're going to have that transfer portal down the road where, okay, a guy that we're seeing right now from the junior class earlier this week and wrapping up this morning, they may go to a mid-major. But when these guys arrive on campus, those guys might have a little bit more development time, and they've got a track record at the Division I level. And now all of a sudden, with the transfer portal being what it is, they end up at an SEC school.
I think you're entirely right. I think the factoring in, hey, am I going to play as a freshman, it really doesn't enter into a lot of kids' thoughts. But I think the mere existence of the transfer portal, and I don't think even the coaches understand how to use the transfer portal on a 35-player roster yet. And I think that's something that's going to evolve more slowly than you think between parents, between college coaches on how they approach recruiting and how the players associate. Yeah, hey, I can go to a smaller school, prove myself, and then transfer like Paul Skeens did from Air Force to LSU as a junior and really make my draft money.
Colin Thacker wrapping up here. It looks like we're going to go through all the catchers here for all six teams because we see red, royal, and white. I saw those guys in the background as Thacker was wrapping up.
I get that. That's an advanced PG showcase move, rolling in the back into the last drill. I've been there for that. I didn't know whether they were going to do it or not, but that's a graduate course in showcase time management right there.
So whoever offered that up, is that a gold star? Or is that a free lunch in the coming days?
No,
is that worthy of a dinner?
No, that's just the fact that Greg Sabers has run literally 500 showcases during his career and knows exactly what he's doing.
So here we go through all six teams. And then red, royal, and white will go through outfield, infield, and first baseman.
Correct.
177. Yeah, giving it to our audience, but also throwing it out there for my own sanity and for my own sake, so I repeat it and remember it. Will Holden. Steve Banta, can you confirm what you just whispered in our ear? Okay. So I haven't worked with Steve Banta, our producer director, enough where I was maybe he was pulling my leg there. But what we're going to do here, we're going to go back to infielders, the first baseman, in sort of reverse order. So we'll go catchers here to wrap up with red, royal, and white, and then we'll go to the first baseman. Again, the pop time is what they're doing here. But as Dave alluded to, and we see Will Holden, Wake Forest commit from Advanced North Carolina. They're taking a look, the setup, receiving the baseball.
Lower
and now
body
we get
light.
into Nicholas Broyles, lower body life.
Simply how you come out of your crouch. How quick your feet are. And we're watching infielders, watching all their footwork and the guys that are light on their feet and bouncy, like we saw in particular from some of that infield group. You're really watching the same thing on catchers in a different context. It's how do their feet work? How do their hips work? What kind of quickness do they have coming out of the crouch? Because that's what the game, that's what's going to make you a next level catcher, whether that's a solid college catcher or a potential draft and pro catcher, is more so your lower half actions than your raw arm strength. All these kids can throw to a degree. You know, by the time they're seniors, some will be throwing 80 and some will be throwing 82. That part of it's not as marginally relevant is your lower half actions and your lower half athleticism.
Bradley McCafferty, do commit. We touched on the academic side for these young men, just wrapping up their freshman year in high school, making verbal commits to academic schools like Stanford, Vanderbilt, Duke, and told we learn on the fly. We will go back to the outfielders after the completion of Team White here, and we see Branson Crawford, young man from Gainesville, Florida. Kevin O'Sullivan and the Gators, one of the 8 teams, Omaha bound in the College World Series. Looking forward to things getting underway here in the coming days. 3 SEC schools. You've got Wake Forest and ACC school, as well as Virginia. Crawford wrapping up. Cody Goff from Boynton Beach, Florida. Ranked number 6 nationally by perfect game for the class of 2026.
Have you done your research on Cody Goff's sister?
I would imagine that would be Miss Coco Goff on the tennis side.
It would be currently the number 7 ranked player in the world and women's tennis, and the only teenager, still 19 years old, ranked in the top 50.
Well, my favorite event on the tennis side does not come until the end of summer, and that's the U.S. Open in New York. An event I have never attended, but will do so at some point in the future.
And Cody Goff, well known for his baseball talent already, a 13U Select Festival player in 2021, a 14U Select Festival player in 2022.
Brian Borges, Miami, Florida. The Gulliver Schools, is that a former Gulliver Prep?
I believe that is related to Gulliver. I don't know what the difference is in calling it Gulliver Prep versus Gulliver Schools. Probably something, administratively, whatever that happened for that private school. But yes, I'm sure it's the same school down in Coral Gables, Florida.
Brian Georges wrapping up from behind the plate. And those are our catchers for all 6 teams. Team Black through Team White. And now we will go with the outfielders. and then back to the infield, and then we'll have our rounds of batting practice. So we're going to see Team Red up first in just a few moments. When we come back, the outfielders and the velocity times. We've already seen 3 teams. We'll have 3 more teams coming in just a few moments. No, that's all right. Hey. Team Red, Team Royal, and Team White outfielders about to get underway here at the 2023 Sophomore National Showcase. Players in town for the next couple of days. Little different, Dave Ronsley, from the Junior National Showcase, where we had 3 groups of 4 teams, and the first 4 teams wrapped up, on Sunday, Monday. Is that what it was? And then they were on their way to travel ball tournaments, whether in Georgia or across the nation. These young men committing to 3 full days, the workouts today, games tomorrow and Friday to wrap up.
Yeah, it's a smaller showcase, and it was actually the last of the 5 national showcases that Perfect Game puts on to start up. There's always been the national showcase, the junior national showcase, which just concluded, and really the 13U and 14U national showcases have been long established. But this may be only the 2nd or 3rd year the sophomore national showcase has been. I think we might be seeing something special here from Colton Galley, a primary shortstop here in this outfield, with his throws as he collects the various pieces of equipment he left out there. That is the something special right there. 101, a new event record by 6 miles an hour from the outfield at the sophomore national showcase. Wow.
So you were talking, but you're multitasker. Was there a throw? Was one of that 101 in there? Did you say that's going to be a real good reading?
No, I was watching it, and I had a little angel speaking in my ear, and that there might be something special happening here, and I wasn't sure of it until I saw it up there. But I saw how hard what his throws were doing. I saw how the arm worked and the strength of the young man. So.
Right, and that's what I wasn't expecting you to say the radar reading. I was more along the lines of how he was throwing as we see Dallas Peoples wrap up. Just eye-opening for you of because you've done that. You did that in the Junior National Showcase. That's going to be a good reading right there.
Yeah. And
so were there throws in there that you just knew that were going to be good, consistent?
Not specifically, but I saw that it was possible. And looking back at Tanner Galley, now last year he threw 93 from the outfield, 88 on the mound. So obviously the talent was there before. He's the 43rd ranked player in the country. So the talent obviously was there, and he's just stepped it up another notch, obviously.
Martin Shilar from Decatur, Georgia, Marist High School. Young man ranked number 484 nationally according to Perfect Game for the class of 2026. Number 12 outfielder in the state of Georgia. Goes 6'1", 185. He is 15 years old, 10 months. Just underway with our outfielders for teams red, royal, and white. We don't get a Vegas gold in the Sophomore National Showcase. Noah Wilson. Can I say it? And I don't have his bio in front of me right now, but I would say Noah Wilson also plays football in the fall.
That's such an athletic body. That is such an athletic body. Still only 15 years old, of course, 6'1", 185. And get this, last month he ran a 6.45 60. That is so elite for this age group. I don't even know how to contextualize 6.45 in the 60 for a 15-year-old. That is, he has a chance to be one of the fastest runners in Perfect Game Showcase history by the time he's going into his senior year. I will tell you that. Right in the outfield and you're building momentum through your throws, it's never going to translate one-on-one. It might translate within 5 or 6 miles of each other, but it's never going to be a dime per dime sort of thing, with the miles per hour. That's it. Michael Hughes. Thank you, Steve, for that. Michael Hughes, who
let's say
a Venezuelan.
real quick, Steve. That was Steve Panta giving you that.
All right.
Credit where credit is due.
102, the all-time record. Actually, one of the most impressive throwers I ever saw was Bradley who now is playing for the Royals, and in his showcase days, boy, could he throw. He'd throw 98, 99. It would be 2 feet off the ground the whole way.
So along the lines of that conversation, there's an old line, and I want to get this right, 83 from the outfield as we continue through Team Royal. And James Jorgensen now up. You take 2 runners. You take a runner with perfect form and a runner with less than perfect form. They run the same time. Who are you taking? And the adage is you'll take the runner if they're running the same time, one with perfect form, one with form that needs improvement. You're taking the runner who needs improvement, because with coaching, with improving that form, they'll run a faster time. Logic would dictate that. How does that translate to baseball? How does that translate to what we're seeing here in terms of outfielders, as you touch on, their footwork, the different things they have to get down with their fundamentals and mechanics?
I think it comes in more to play than anything in the evaluation process, and I acknowledge your question was about outfielders, but for pitchers, if you have a young man who's got great mechanics and he's throwing the same velocity as the guy with the really rough mechanics, the bad direction, the whatever you want to pinpoint, do you do that? Nice throw there, 94. Only one off the former record for this event. But I tend to go, the athleticism to already do something right and to do it on a high level. I'm tempted to say I'll take in most situations in baseball the one who does it right already, who already has shown the athleticism to do it correctly, over the person who I don't really know has the athleticism to do it, the physical aptitude to do it. I'll go for more of the present in that, and I think there's a lot of scouts out there that would agree with me.
Brian McIntyre from one of my favorite areas of the country in terms of baseball, the Chesapeake, Virginia area, around Norfolk. Norfolk, Virginia, longtime AAA baseball. The pitching coach during my time in the minors, Gary Lavelle, was from that area. Pitched in the big leagues, was
San Francisco Giants.
There you go. And Gary was from that Chesapeake area, and at one point was a pitching coach in the New York Yankees organization. Patty Roth is now up and throwing, primary right-handed pitcher. St. Patrick High School, Chicago, Illinois, and an Illinois commit.
How can someone named Patty Roth be going to St. Patrick High School? At least have you not noticed that? The Irish connection. I saw that and I'm like, wow, okay. No, to get back one more comment on your question, your outstanding question about the raw versus the polished. There's a kind of a cool cliche in baseball right now that you hear on national media, you hear down here on the field now, and that is baseball is hard. And if you are already at a young age able to execute parts of it correctly, whether it be a pitching delivery or a basic fundamental swing or your footwork in the outfield, baseball is hard. You can't assume with the difficulty of this sport that somebody with hard work and some degree of athleticism is necessarily going to overcome the inherent difficulty of doing baseball actions, to their optimum.
So is it hard to get that point across sometimes when somebody's pure analytics in the game of baseball, that you have to give them pause on occasion when you're in conversation to say, okay, your analytics do tell you this, but we have the eye test and we also know that point. Baseball is hard.
I don't get into I don't have any of the the relationships between scout and pure analytics people that they do at the professional level. So I only have discussions with, you know, our fellow PG staff members who are maybe a little more well-grounded in the technical analytics part, and those are just baseball conversations. They're not real serious, so it's not a matter of convincing anyone. It's more a matter of enlightening each other on one's viewpoints.
Ryland Baker getting things going for Team White. Branson Crawford from Gainesville, Florida, is up next. He's got the stylish glove. I'll call that a pink arm sleeve. Is that a custom job with that glove?
Could be. It's almost a disappointment that he's wearing plain, regular black shoes. There's more wardrobe potential there.
Branson Crawford.
Well, yes, it did. 93 miles an hour.
Ethan Rothman from Windermere, Florida, Miami commit for the class of 2026, ranked number 74 nationally by Perfect Game. Again, class of 2026. So the players that we see here with the workouts and batting practice coming up, and just a short time from now, the games tomorrow for all 6 teams competing will get underway 8 a.m. Dave alluded to it earlier, and we'll keep reminding you. We don't know. We may know by the end of our broadcast here on PerfectGame.tv. Likely, if batting practice is starting at 8 a.m., that was our scheduled start time for the first game. We've been told that that's going to be pushed back to 9 a.m., so we'll be covering, in all likelihood, batting practice. Dave might be able to share more on that.
Wanted to drop real quick on Ethan Rathman there. I mentioned before a 6.45 40 time with a previous, or 60 time with a previous athlete. Rathman has a 6.40 to his credit, and that was over a year ago. So I'm anxious to hear what Ethan Rathman's 60 time is here from this event.
Up next, we see Henry Apt. The Apt family busy in Marietta. They must know Marietta pretty well, because his older brother is also a participant here this week with the Junior National Showcase just wrapping up. Henry 1 year behind his older brother. .85 from the outfield for Henry Apt. Up next, Brian Borges from Miami, Florida. Team White with a handful of class of 2026 college commits. Miami for Rathman, Oklahoma State for Trip Hanna, who's from Florida as well. Brock Ryan from Fayetteville, Georgia commit. Brian Borges, 84 from the outfield. Nathaniel Davis from Orlando, Florida. Six foot, 165 pounds. Listed as an outfielder and a left-handed pitcher.
Another flyer in the 60, 6'6", Davis recently ran, and I think he's a little listed at 6 foot 165. I think he's Might even be a little taller than that now. Maybe a old
I was
listing.
thinking similar.
And only 15 years, 4 months old.
'93 from the outfield.
He only threw 88 3 weeks ago at his last perfect game event. So the arm strength has really even picked up in within the last month.
This is Colton Springale from Las Vegas, Nevada, Tennessee commit, Lipscomb Academy. Outfielders wrapping up for Team Red, Team Royal, and Team White to the infield. After the completion of our outfielders, looks like we have one more behind Springale. We'll go to the infielders, throwing from shortstop, the first baseman. We've completed the catchers. And after the first baseman wrap up, they'll get the field ready for batting practice. Springale is actually going to he must have something to go pick up. Look now at Max Waring from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Maximus got his invitation to this event about 3 weeks ago, and I was able to see him at an event that was supposed to be an outdoor event, ended up an indoor event up in Gastonia, North Carolina, and ends up that I'd scouted his father, Melvin, many years before. Melvin, a 14-year professional veteran, all in the minor and independent leagues, and his son can rake, let's put it that way. I'm going to enjoy seeing him in batting practice and in the games, because Maximus.
And that is a high compliment.
Yes, Maximus is kind of Maximus with the bat, just like his dad was. His dad played 4 or 5 years at AAA, mostly in the Orioles organization. So it was a genetic line right there.
Maximus goes 6 foot, 205, just turned 16. 88 from the outfield. Our outfielders are complete for the 2023 Sophomore National Showcase. We move to the infield. Our infielders from shortstop when we continue on perfectgame.tv. Continuing from the Sophomore National Showcase on perfectgame.tv, Team Red, Team Royal, Team White, as we'll go through the infielders and the throws from shortstop. Steve Lennox, Dave Ronsley, glad you're with us. Dylan Messina from IMG Academy from Cortez, Florida. PG high follow ranking right now for the class of 2026. That release, I thought we might get a heads up.
It was automatic. If you don't get on top of the throw when you're heading towards the bag, that's what's going to happen. And he didn't. Dylan on that throw, he did on the next one, didn't get on top of it.
Dylan Messina wrapping up here, just underway for the three teams on the infield: Red, Royal, and White. Tanner Owens Listed primarily as a pitcher, right-handed pitcher. Perfect game ranking, top 1,000 from Milton, Florida. And Pace High School. See Cody Goff again, but we touched on Goff earlier, and yes, that's my sister. Yes. She's an outstanding tennis player. Yes, I have my work cut out for me at the dinner table, night in, night out.
But the
Aiden
reality,
Ruiz.
when Coco Gauff was, and I'm just not being to single out the fan, when she was 13, 14 years old, she was, near the top of the rankings for her tennis group, and she was getting her tennis opportunities and growing her game to where it is now. It can be the same. I mean, Cody, the younger brother, was a festival participant in both his 13 and 14 years. He's nationally ranked in baseball. He's taking the same path in a different sport that might have a little bit different timeline than tennis does, but there can be the same success there, most definitely, and it's probably something that the parents are the family are so proud of. Here's our 101 mile an hour outfield arm, sir. The hardest throws you'll get during the infield drills are almost always either on the first throw or on this throw, when you can get your momentum headed towards the bag. So we will see what kind of arm strength Colton Goulet can get from the infield, his primary position, but he also shows some athleticism there, especially for such, that's a strong-bodied athlete right there. 94 miles an hour, certainly outstanding in and of its own right without the outfield time.
Brady Marshall up next, Tennessee commit, Mocksville, North Carolina. Primary position, third base. Go through our infielders, first baseman, and then on to batting practice. Martin Shillar, Decatur, Georgia. Shillar plays for the five-star National Grubbs and Wilson team. We'll have navy, red, royal, and white taking batting practice. Akahi up next, Rock Akahi. Akahi wrapping up, 5'11", 175. Will turn 16 over the coming months. Jason Williams up next from Cumming, Georgia, Denmark High School. Perfect game, top 1,000 for the class of 2026, 5'11", 166.
Probably worth mentioning that these rankings that you see next to all these players, the rankings haven't really been redone, I think, in maybe about 2 months. I can't name an exact date, but I would think it's probably about 2 months. So much has happened in baseball at this level in the last 2 months. With, I've been to 6 showcases in the last 3 weeks myself, and it's the same at different parts of the country. Lots of new information coming in. So all these rankings will be reworked in the next couple weeks after this showcase is over, and they will change significantly. Some of these kids you might see with a 500 or a 484, we've seen them since, and that ranking is going to change. We'll just see how it shakes out after we take all the information from this and literally dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of other events into consideration.
Just saw Parker Lowe. Now we see Nate Wade from St. Augustine, Florida, primarily a right-handed pitcher. So with this event wrapping up Friday, we'll have 3 games tomorrow, 3 games on Friday, Dave Ronsley. What goes into the process in the coming weeks before you do release the new rankings for the class of 2026?
It's a multi-step process. The whole linchpin of it is Greg Sabers, a Perfect Game vice president and just a genius at his ability to retain, all this multi-levels of organization in how to rank players, not only for this class but for 4 other classes as well. And he puts together a master list and he sends it out to the entire, operations, scouting, and tournament staff, asking for feedback. Not only on the national level, but on the state level. You can go in the Perfect Game database and you'll not only see a top 500, you'll see a top 50 to 150 for bigger states in any single state. So it's a multi-level thing, and a lot of chance for the feedback from the entire staff, and Greg puts it all together and comes out with a final yet very temporary product.
Give us a little background on Greg.
Greg is a PG lifer. He Iowa native, played college baseball in Iowa, joined Perfect Game as a intern back maybe 16 years ago after graduating from school, and worked his way from the lowest level of intern, driving the PG bus around the country and stuff, and is now one of the leaders with the company.
Yeah, I was looking at his LinkedIn profile. You say lifer. He looks like he's I've never met Greg. I want to be asked back. But you touched on yesterday and over the last couple of days. I'm going down a road here. A lifer, and yet you talked about, looking at these young men from the Junior National Showcase. Do they shave yet? And Greg, with his profile picture on LinkedIn, I would say under 25 years old, but not the case.
Well, Greg is
maybe it's an older picture.
Significantly older, has 2 kids, et cetera, et cetera. But no, Greg, you said at the top of the show, I'm in my 21st year with Perfect Game, and 2 of the leaders, the absolute leaders of this company, and good friends of mine, Greg Sabers and Taylor McCullough, were interns in back-to-back classes 16 and 17 years ago, and out of college, and have been with Perfect Game ever since, and have since then, just been so integral to the huge growth of this company to where it was, and as a vision of Jerry Ford, 25 years ago, and employees like that, who grow with the company as people like Greg and Taylor have, are a huge part of our success.
What is one of the, as we take a look at Grady Emerson here for Team Royal, what's one of the highest compliments chronicled, whether it's been a feature on Perfect Game, it's one of the highest compliments that you've seen over the years that you take pride in, now being 21 years with PG?
I don't think there's a single accomplishment or anything like that. I think it's the mere fact that I've been so fortunate to work for 21 years. Not only with Jerry Ford and Jason Gers, Tyson Kim, Ben and Andy Ford, but with people like Greg Sabers and Taylor McCullough, and now the new generation with Jared Goodwin and Vinny Servino, and just such great baseball people. It's a company that's grown not because of any of its business acumen, but because it's made up of pure baseball people, and just having that opportunity to do it for 21 straight years has been as important as anything in my life as I could name.
Go from the word accomplishment to compliment for PG.
Compliment for PG?
Yeah.
I think I probably just said this is a baseball company. I think so many there's huge business opportunities in the travel ball industry, and I think the core employees at Perfect Game have never looked at it in a business sense. And I start right down with Jerry Ford. This is an opportunity to grow baseball, to give back to baseball. I'm fortunate enough to earn my living watching these highly talented players play baseball. And that in and of itself, in my mind, is about as big a compliment as you can pay. We are a company made out of baseball people whose goal, following Jerry Ford, is to grow the game and grow these young players and this young talent.
Trip Hanna for Team White. Wrapping up over the next couple of minutes. We'll go across the diamond. The first baseman will throw. And then we'll get into our rounds of batting practice. We'll have 4 teams participating in BP. Our first game tomorrow morning.
Tripp tried to go between his legs there, so they're going to give him another shot at it too, I think. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve.
That's all right. How is that received?
With smiles. The fact that he didn't execute it, it's not a negative of any sort. He was trying to play with a little flair. He's done it before, I'm sure. He tried it in front of this crowd, and he knows he's on national TV. Didn't pull it off, but there were still smiles all around.
Luis Hernandez from Sanford, Florida, shortstop, primary position. And my vote for the best cleats so far. Are we still calling them cleats? Can I get away with that? Spikes?
I just say shoes, I think.
There you go.
He tried to do it too, I think.
And he comes away with the smile on his face. First baseman.
It's integral. When I said I don't mind that, to remember, these are 15-year-olds. We want them to have fun.
Have you ever approached a kid that say just that, where you just know they're tightly wound in that moment when you observe them, and just go over and just give them a little chuck on the shoulder and say, this is supposed to be fun. You're out here, let's see the smile.
I haven't done it because the scouts are kind of set themselves apart during all this is going on. I know our coaches, the people in the dugout, the guys really on the field with them, will do that frequently. I mean, that's just part of being a baseball guy. And the Lloyd Thompsons and Rico Billups and Brian Adams and Frank Foltz, the 4 coaches that we have in here right now, are going to do that every time. Put their hand on somebody's kid's shoulders. Hey, relax. This is fun. Go show us your tools. And take off your glasses.
Colton Springale from Las Vegas, Nevada. Tennessee commit. Touched on him earlier. Perfect game ranking, number 72 nationally for the class of 2026. Got that throw off on the last one. And he's going to go pick up the glasses. To wrap up our infielders from across the diamond from shortstop, now they'll get ready, our first baseman, when we continue on PerfectGame.tv. outfield rounds are over for all 6 teams. Our infield rounds are complete. Now the first baseman, and Andrew Barr for Team Royal gets things underway. Young man from Longwood, Florida. Perfect game, topped that 1,000 ranking. Did not hear a heads up there.
Those are another pair of
Coming off the bat.
legs. Long legs on an athlete right there.
Barr listed 6 foot 150. I dare say that needs to be updated.
Yes, kids grow quick at this age.
Andrew Mahoney from Michigan, Detroit Catholic Central. Primarily a left-handed pitcher. Have there been base running drills that Perfect Game has done in the past?
Not that I can recall, no. I mean, we've done a few little pilot projects with different things centered around tournaments and teams and training over the years that I think did, but certainly on a showcase example, we haven't done anything like that.
Maximus Waring, we touched on him from the outfield. Dave being familiar and friendly with his father from his pro days.
Oh, just familiar from his pro days. First time I talked to Melvin Waring was 3 weeks ago, but it helps when I had the chance to look up the baseball reference stuff on him before I even went up to talk to him. So it was kind of fun.
Baseball reference. If you don't know the website, familiarize yourself with it. Our last first baseman, as Colin White goes through from Dominion Christian and Powder Springs, Georgia. Georgia Tech commit for Danny Hall and the Yellow Jackets in Atlanta.
'50th ranked player in the country is a left-handed pitcher, so we'll really look forward to seeing that on the mound over the next 2 days.
6'3" and 170 pounds. I dare say that's pretty accurate. Room to grow for Colin White. So batting practice coming up. We'll have 4 teams participating in BP: Team Navy, Team Red, Team Royal, and Team White. Teams 1 and 2, teams black and gray, will have batting practice on Thursday morning before their scheduled game, originally slated for 8 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. That will be pushed back right now by an hour or so, 9 o'clock start time. So again, the hitters here. Go ahead, Dave.
Would it surprise you, Steve, to know that on my laptop here in front of me that I actually have a window open to Baseball Reference?
Would it surprise me? No, not at all.
I think I have a window open to Baseball Reference at almost all times. It's pretty much a given.
Just so many nuances that you can find on there. And what I really enjoy going to now are the high school pages and finding out, the alum from the different high schools, especially for events like this. We talk about the different high schools, the Florida schools, the California schools, and and not just mentioning those two, but just off the top. You can go Texas and across the board, but where a young man is from and the history of that high school and the baseball program as well.
Yeah, and from our point of view, during the Junior National, we had a player from Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. I was 98% sure that Alex Bregman went to Albuquerque Academy, but I wanted to check, and it takes literally 10 seconds to check that. And it's just, it's just all those little baseball things that you always want to be right with. Actually, the reason it's open now is I looked up Lloyd Thompson, who's going to be our first batting practice pitcher, and to remind myself of his professional career back in the 1970s.
Give us a little background on Lloyd.
Well, Lloyd was a listed 6'1", 180. Went to Blinn Junior College and the University of New Mexico. Played professionally for 4 years. First 2 years with West Palm Beach and what was then the Expos organization. Was a light-hitting middle infielder, let's just describe it that way. But boy, has he made himself a career out of baseball since founded the Home Plate Chili Dogs organization. Has been involved in baseball at every level since, coaching, pitching, throwing, batting practice, running travel teams. It's part of the,
so
the
you
real
say
fabric
light hitting
of baseball.
Dave, you say light hitting middle infielder. I don't think that is a negative. I think immediately he was a defensive whiz up the middle at second and short.
Well, he had 3 extra
Would have had to have been, right?
He had 3 extra base hits and about 230 plate appearances. They can't get any more light hitting than that. So,
Dave Ronsley said that, Lloyd, not Steve Lennox.
And then he went and played a year of independent ball in Corpus Christi, and had a close to 500 slugging percentage and 7 bombs. So he stepped down a level and the power came back. But he said even back then, the coaches wanted me to pitch because I had a strong arm, shortstop, and they wanted me to pitch, but I wanted to play every day. And so he said, I fought pitching back then. And, and he's still throwing to this day. And, I don't want to put an age on Lloyd out there, but the baseball reference page just simply says born 1954. So you can fill in the rest.
Looks like we will see Caleb Dowdy hitting first, class of 2025, Junior National Showcase player. We've seen him already participate here, getting his workout in on the field with the sophomores and his younger brother as well, who we'll see. Olive Branch High School in Mississippi. So this is a good comparison because here you see a young man who is starting to mature physically as he's just about ready to start his junior year. He's 17 years, 18 months. And then you'll see the sophomore. So you're going to see a little bit of a difference here between Caleb Dowdy and the rest of the hitters that we're going to see with the start of batting practice for the Sophomore National Showcase.
And when you're watching players of diverse age, and at a normal PG showcase, you generally have 2 groupings. You have your 13, 14s, and then you have everybody else, which could mean a class of 2026. It could mean a class of 2023. And you really have to toggle through those differences when you're out on the field there and taking your notes and doing your evaluations between the relative strengths. Because a player who's 15 years old is almost always going to have different bat speed and a different physicality than a player who's getting close to his 18th birthday, and you have to take that into account in your evaluations.
And Dave will stick with a brother theme. Dylan Moss, older brother Dean Moss, just wrapped up the Junior National Showcase, and here is Dylan participating in the Sophomore Showcase.
And I think that I've seen Dean Moss play 20 times. This may be the first time I've seen younger brother Dylan play, and they have 2 very, very different builds. So right away that has to account. Dean very, very strong and mature. Dylan much longer arms, less broad shoulders. Different swing mechanics.
Dylan shares, my 13U season was tough for me. I lacked confidence in my hitting, and that spread to all parts of my game. In the fall, worked really hard on his strength, his hitting, receiving, and mental part of the game. Much different much better player and teammate now. It's a good share from Dylan Moss, wrapping up his round of batting practice. Ethan Bass up next. We've seen Bass from the outfield, on the infield as well. From Northbrook, Illinois commit, ranked number 16 nationally for the class of 2026 by Perfect Game. Listed at 6'1", 165 currently. Young man who will turn 16 later this year. What are you taking away here, Dave, from Ethan Bass?
Well, there's good bat speed for the physique and physical maturity. You know, I think Ethan will, as he advances, have less and less of a high leg kick. Even in batting practice, he was late 3 or 4 times getting his foot down, and those were the balls he mishit. But I've really enjoyed watching him so far with his energy and his athleticism, and we'll see how that translates into the game. It obviously has in the past. He's ranked 16th in the country right now.
Nick Bradley, Auburn commit, varsity letter winner in both baseball and football, starting on varsity as a freshman, just wrapping up his first year of high school at Abington Heights High School in Pennsylvania.
Well, it's interesting looking at his PG profile, because he's obviously a primary pitcher. He's been up to 92 on the mound, but he's also has velos from the outfield, the infield, catcher. So he's an all-around athlete. He's taken BP here, which not all pitchers do. So Nicholas Bradley very much sees himself as an all-around baseball player, an all-around athlete.
And Dave, here's where he sees himself in 10 years, sharing on his Perfect Game profile. Hopefully I'll be pitching in the major leagues, and when I'm not doing that, I'll be running a farm with cows at home.
Running a farm. That's almost a new one on these player profiles and the questions. Good for the young man. We need more farmers. We need more big
John
league
Dolan
pitchers,
stands
too.
in.
He can let that wait. Let that wait, Nicholas, until you're about 40, 42 years old, okay?
John Dolan, Missouri commit, Huffman, Texas. Took my youngest son for a trip up to Cooperstown and to Syracuse, New York a handful of weeks ago, and he slept pretty much on the entire trip, so I confirm once again that he's my son because I could sleep in the car with the best of them. But on the trip home, we spent a rainy day in Cooperstown, and we're making our way through Cooperstown, New York, in that area, and the rolling hills that are in that area. And a lot of cow farms, Dad. I mean, yeah, a lot of cow farms. There is farm country still here in the Northeast and across the nation. Judson Dowell from Houston, Texas, Texas A&M commit. Judson plays for the Texas 12 Red Sox 2026 team. Favorite player to watch? Mike Trout. Still considers him still the best overall baseball player there is. His mom, Brandy, grew up in College Station. His grandparents lived there. So I mentioned the Texas A&M commit, and he's got some familiarity with the area. Has attended camps at Texas A&M, already on his resume. And shared the new rules in college baseball came into effect after he was able to make his commitment with the verbal commit. So he felt pretty lucky that he was able to do that.
Now batting from Chicago, Illinois, Logan Fernandez.
Judson Dow wrapping up his round of batting practice for Team Navy. Now we get a look at Logan Fernandez from Jones College Prep and Chicago, Illinois. Again, we were scheduled to get underway around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Rain and weather in the area, so we were delayed. Got underway just past 5 p.m. Eastern. 6 teams participating and over 100 players for the 2023 Sophomore National Showcase here in Marietta, Georgia. Logan Fernandez plays for Top Tier Americans 15U program. That's this travel team for Matt Plant. Schools he's considering: Illinois, Louisville, UCLA, and Arizona. '23 perfect game preseason underclass All-American. Logan Fernandez wrapping up his round. And now we take a look at Jacob Harms. Harms, right-handed pitcher primarily, ranked number 250 by perfect game for the class of 2026. From Irving, Texas, plays for Jason Graham at Ranch View High School. And plays for the Canes, Texas travel team. I think we have our first Shohei Ohtani fan between the National and Sophomore National Showcases. Well done, Jacob.
It's so hard for young players to relate to Ohtani. Not only I think in the uniqueness of his talent, but somewhat culturally too.
Amazing to me that it'll be Ohtani that is thought of and talked about in the years to come. But for me, anytime you want to talk Shohei Ohtani, I want to talk Ichiro as well.
Now batting from San Mateo, California, Archer Horn.
Archer Horn is up next for Team Navy. Navy, red, royal, and white. 4 groups of batting practice.
Okay, what's the first
Archer
thing,
Horn,
Steve?
Stanford commit. Go ahead.
What's the first thing you want to talk about with Ichiro when you think of him in context with Ohtani?
Well, what immediately comes to mind for me is probably the impression that Ichiro had on Ohtani growing up, that he was a youngster, as you watched him in his absolute best, and watching him probably make that transition at a very young age, granted, but making that transition from Japan to playing Major League Baseball in the United States, and just the influence that he had on him. But just Ichiro for me overall, just his mannerisms, just the way he carried himself, the way he carries himself present day, and just the way he played the game. I miss it. From era to era, Dave, and you can go back farther than me, of players that you just miss. And I would put him probably right there at the top. That if you could, we always, polls on social media or whatever. If you could watch one more, if you could watch a player one more time, Ichiro, for me, he'd be right up there. If I could watch one more game overall, be in the stands to watch him, or even in front of the TV. For me, he's number one. I'd be hard. George Brett would be number 2 for me. So 2 left-handed batters. Drew Messi, Louisville commit, Westminster Christian Academy. So Messi, I'll get into his bio a little bit here, but Westminster Christian, I'm thinking Florida, but from St. Louis, Missouri.
I think it's still, there's a Westminster Christian. I think it's part of a larger educational organization in the St. Louis area. I've seen players from that school before. Every year we have our national junior indoor showcase in the greater St. Louis area, and we have a huge turnout there of the best players in the greater St. Louis area, and I'm pretty familiar with that school.
All right, Dave, I've got Jack Ryan's nickname for you. You ready?
Okay.
Soy sauce.
Soy sauce.
Soy sauce. Maybe he enjoyed soy sauce at a very young age.
Okay. I was thinking Jack Ryan from the iconic, Tom Clancy novels myself.
Yes.
But soy sauce. Okay. There's a story behind that. Maybe we'll get a chance or maybe Darren Sutton will at some point in the future to ask Jack Ryan about his nickname.
Travel team, Team Elite, St. Xavier High School, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Now batting from the Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Clancy books for me are intimidating, but I love the character and I love the storylines from the Jack Ryan era.
Oh, Jack Ryan is still alive. Clancy's successors in the books, they have a Jack Ryan Jr. Jack Ryan's son is now the main protagonist in a whole nother series.
I did not realize that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going through Grisham one by one. That's my new thing, and I'm about halfway through, I think, his entire series. Ethan Stipp at the plate. From Las Vegas, Nevada, IMG Academy, Hawaii commit. So he's going to cover. Look at that. Grew up in Las Vegas, goes to school at IMG Academy in Florida. He's got to live in the Northeast or the Midwest at some point in his lifetime. Ethan Stipp, one of our final batters for Team Navy. Red, royal, and white to follow. What are you taking away from his round here?
Very strong young man. It sort of cuts off his swing. There's a little bit of stiffness out front, but you can tell there's a lot of strength there. And as I was watching him and I was thinking about my process since we can't see where the ball is really going, of immediately after the rounds are finished, texting the PG scouts and saying, hey, give me impressions on like 10 guys or your top 10 guys, from each grouping here.
Jack Duggan standing in from the left side. Touted as the number 1 shortstop prospect for the class of 2026 out of the state of Nashville by Perfect Game, number 6 overall in the state and number 254 nationally. Duggan goes 6'1", 170. Are you hearing that sound off the bat from any of our first hitters here? That sound?
None that really resonate yet. and there's no way to tell the exact volume level of our mics down there, but there were players at the Junior National who it definitely sounded different off the bat. And if you're wondering about what are they talking about, the sound off the bat, it's a very, very real thing, you know, that's indicator of exit velocity, bat speed. You know, some hitters, it just sounds different off the bat, and maybe a little more rare with this age group, although this obviously being some of the more talented players in the country. They may not be quite old enough yet, except for a very rare one of two of them, to really create that sound.
Gabriel Rosenfeld, primarily the left-handed pitcher, 6'2", 185. American Heritage High School, and sunny Isle Beach, Florida.
Plus, at this age, every single pitcher hits, because they're still you know, multi-position players. I was just thinking, by the time they get to be at the national showcase, and a number of these primary pitchers will, you know, in 2 years be at the national showcase, not many of them will be hitting anymore. There'll be exceptions, of course.
Player or two that stand out for you that have participated in the Sophomore National Showcase that 2 years later you thought maybe they've got a shot, and all of a sudden they really jumped onto the national stage for you and did participate in that national level on the showcase 2 years later?
I don't think this Sophomore Showcase has enough history to be able to do that. To say that with, I think this is only the second or third Sophomore Showcases. As I was describing at I believe at the top of the show, we have our 5 national showcase events. Perfect Game National has been there since before I was at Perfect Game, to tell you the truth. Junior National has been there a long time. 13 and 14 came before the Sophomore, and the Sophomore was sort of like done to fill in that last blank over a 5-year developmental period. So this is a relatively new event on the Perfect Game calendar.
Malachi Washington, Perfect Game ranking, number 56 nationally for the class of 2026. College interests include Vanderbilt, Florida, Miami, LSU, Tennessee, Clemson, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Primarily an outfielder, number 2 in the state of Georgia. That number 2 ranking. As an outfielder, number 8 ranking overall for the state of Georgia from Perfect Game.
You want to hear some numbers here? Going back to his 12-year-old year in 2020, Malachi has played in 154 games in PG tournaments, has a .478 batting average, 23 home runs, and 168 stolen bases. The game's been pretty easy for him up to this point against his peers.
So touch on that. Have there been players over the course of your history that you saw performing at a high level and all of a sudden they've not hit a wall, but all of a sudden, as they do it, any baseball player's done it, all of a sudden you see him scuffle perhaps at an event for the first time?
Oh, not an event. I mean, it definitely happens. If you have a young man who just matures early, it's going to happen. You look at his numbers and it's like, dang, this guy hit .508 with 12 homers as a 13-year-old, and now he's just a borderline guy to even take to national. And that does happen. If you're so physically mature at 12, 13 years old, you know, the game's going to catch up with you. As the other players mature and you maybe get too big, you slow down. So yeah, it happens probably more than you would actually expect it would. Now then, you
Team
look
Navy
at a player,
taking batting practice here.
A player like Malachi Washington, and you say, well, I don't think he's going to do it. Well, you look at he runs in a 6'8", 60. You know, he has the athleticism, he has the body type that is going to keep getting stronger and keep improving rather than go backwards. So for some reason, players like a Washington in this specific example, who's only a 13U select player last year, he just turned 15. It's easy to say, no, I don't think it's going to happen to him. He has all the attributes of a player who's going to to continue to improve and be a national level player through the end of his high school years.
Colin Thacker wrapping up his round of batting practice for Team Navy. We see Team Navy here. Are they doing the, well, not to put you on the spot there, but conversation going to Perfect Game Tech, because the 4 groups here, you've got one group, one team that will be shagging, and then Perfect Game Tech, PG Tech is part of this as well.
Yeah, I would expect they would be going straight to PG Tech. And actually right now, I would imagine the last 2 teams, beginning with the white team, would be the first in PG Tech. The Royal would be second. And then the Navy team, now that they're done, is going to go to the back of the line there, so to speak, to get their PG Tech done, with the goal being of getting these 4 teams all done in the PG Tech cage tonight as well. And of course, you never have to forget, they also have to take at one point their turnout in the field shagging for the other players.
Right, mentioned that, yeah.
So they will probably go right out now. In fact, most of the team is probably out in the field shagging right now, rather than going to the PG Tech cage.
A lot of conversations going on out there.
The ability for young baseball players to group up and socialize in the outfield during BP is almost unlimited.
Peter Coco wrapping up his round. Young man from Allen, Texas. Primarily a right-handed pitcher. PG top 1,000. Mentioned primarily a right-handed pitcher, first base, third base, middle infielder, so all 4 infield positions.
Now batting from Columbia, Illinois, Brody Landgraf.
Brody Landgraf, I believe, will be the final Navy hitter. And Team Red will follow shortly after. Brody Landgraf, young man from Columbia, Illinois. Number 6 ranking overall in the state of Illinois, 6'5", 200. That ranking from Perfect Game, of course. And number 340 nationally for the class of 2026.
6'5", 200 pounds. That stands out on a 16, 17-year-old, but only 15 years, 9 months old. And what a impressive young build on the left-handed hitter.
Shares that he's grown better defensively since the start of 2023 with his footwork, fielding, and throwing.
Now batting from Cortez, Florida, Dylan Messina.
And we will get into Team Red immediately here following Team Navy. And Dylan Messina up first. Messina, IMG Academy, Cortez, Florida. PG high follow right now. Plays for the Florida Burn 2026 scout team for Mark Guthrie. There's a name. Mark Guthrie, former big league pitcher.
Whose son Dalton is in the big leagues right now for the Philadelphia Phillies. And of course, Guthrie.
Did Dalton go the college way?
Yeah. He played shortstop for Florida for 3 years.
That's right.
Sort of a utility guy, actually playing more outfield, I think, than anything with the Phillies now. But Mark Guthrie is one of the founders of the Great Florida Burn Travel Program, 2-time Jupiter champions, and one of the real class travel team programs in the country.
How deep in the night have they gone for rounds of batting practice and past events here?
You really don't want to go late at events like this. Well, first of all, with turf fields and multiple fields, you really have no excuse to go late. You know, going late happens in tournaments when you get put behind and you have limited fields. And showcases, especially with multiple fields, there's no real excuse to go late. Because you're disadvantaging the kids and the families. If they're here until 11, 12 o'clock at night and you ask them to be at the ballpark for an 8 o'clock game the next day, that's you're not seeing what you need to see from the players. So having multiple fields, having turf fields and things like that are always a goal at any perfect game showcase, so we don't have to do things like that.
Tanner Owens for Team Red. Young man from Milton, Florida, Pace High School, plays for Jason McBride. Plays for the PRD East Coast Ghost team. And they've sort of flipped it on me. It's our cameras, I guess. But the reason I'd ask that, with the split screen on the right now, it looks like it's getting dark early. But there's still plenty of daylight here as we just at the bottom of the 7 o'clock hour.
And of course, there are the lights.
You're not like one of my former owners in minor league baseball, are you? You don't turn them on until you absolutely have to. You got to chuckle there.
No, yes. I've seen many a game at midnight on East Cobb 1 over the last couple decades, trust me.
Tanner Owens completing his round.
This has to be a switch hitter. Coming to the plate, came up. Sometimes switch hitters come up with 2 separate helmets. In this case, or 2 separate bats. In this case, Aiden Ruiz coming up with 2 different helmets. And yes, listed as a switch hitter and a throws with both hands. That would be interesting to look into a little bit more.
So plays at a school that I played against in high school, I can say here, from Woodhaven, New York, and it used to be just Stony Brook High School. Now it's the Stony Brook. So I guess they're going the way of the Ohio State.
They must have raised
middle of Long Island. Many a study was made. Aiden Ruiz, 5'9", 155, switch hitter, as Dave alluded to, just turned 16.
Each switch hitter gets 10 swings for a basic right-handed or left-handed hitter. If you're a switch hitter, you get 6 swings from each side of the plate.
Touchdown during the junior national showcase. Switch hitters, kind of a rare breed, but we've seen a handful here, and Aiden Ruiz is our first at the sophomore showcase.
It seems to be a very consistent swing from both sides of the plate. So that's really the most important thing when you look at a young switch hitter is he legitimately a switch hitter? I mean, can he produce the same kind of bat speed, has the same sort of balance in his swing? from both sides of the plate, and especially from the left side, because if you're not fairly similar, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing, at this level, more importantly, the team a disservice. If you're burning at bats from a side that you aren't as good a hitter on, coaches will definitely frown upon that, whether it be their travel coach or your high school coach.
R.J. Cope fills up the left side of the batter's box at 6'7", 225.
Oh boy, does he fill it up. And Cope's a story unto his own. Primary left-handed pitcher with a very high ceiling, literally and figuratively, on the mound. But one of the things that's most notable about him as a prospect is, even at that size, at that age, he still is a legitimate two-way player. He's so smooth athletically, a little older than most of his classmates at 16 years, 3 months, but just a player we get to see often, from where he lives in Georgia, and just such a talented player and a very, very enjoyable young man to talk to. Is, really been raised right, very eloquent, very, very, just fun to talk to as well.
So a couple of things to share from RJ, and he's a junior. His dad, Robin Cope Sr., enjoys watching Shohei Ohtani because he's a two-way player like himself. Here's what he says about Cedric Mullins. Enjoys Cedric Mullins because over the last few off-seasons, Cedric has actually taken time with him to get his swing together. And 6'7", he is a fan of Aaron Judge because of his size and the way he moves on the field. Allows me to know that I can do the same thing in the future. Great share from Robin R.J. Cope.
Line there below Colton Gietz. Little bioinformation there. Top overall outfield, 101 miles an hour, and infield throw velo, 94 miles an hour. I think he tied for the infield lead, but there was nobody anywhere close to that outfield throw time, nor has there been anybody at this event, or I dare say in the 2026 class age group over the years, that has approached that 101 mile an hour velocity.
You said 94 from the infield?
94 from the infield.
Colton Golay taking his final swings in his round of batting practice. Team Royal, Team White to follow. That'll put the wrappings on day number 1 in the afternoon, evening session for the Sophomore National Showcase. Will Holden, Wake Forest commit from Advanced North Carolina. So Wake Forest commit. Coach Walter has the Demon Deacons in Omaha. And Wake Forest at the College World Series for the first time since 1955. Give me one team, Dave, in Omaha. Your one team.
It's hard not to say Wake Forest because they've been so good all season, and you think of them as having this incredible lineup of bashers with Kurtz and Wilkin and Hawk and Johnson and all these guys who can, drive that offense. But yet they also have 3 or 4 pitchers who, if not this year, next year, have a chance to be first-round draft choices. And that depth and breadth of talent to me is, I think is going to put them as the favorite. They've been number 1 ranked a good part of the year. I always look at, when I look at a World Series in big league baseball, you look at the top maybe 8 players on each team, and those 8 players are going to win or lose a World Series. And I think it's no different with a College World Series. Those top 8 players are going to win or lose if they don't play well, that kind of series. And I think Wake Forest has the best 8 players if you go 1 through 8 of any of the teams there.
We look at Brady Marshall, Tennessee commit, 5'11", 180, from Mocksville, North Carolina. Ranked number 5 overall in the state of North Carolina by perfect game for the class of 2026. I asked you the other day, and I know you've got 1,000,010 things going on, but did you finally get a chance to see the Stanford finish in Game 3 against Texas?
Oh, yes. I still don't know where the ball landed.
Yeah.
I was watching players run around all over the place, and I'm like, and then the Stanford players are running out on the field, and it was like, I don't even know where that ball landed. So, yeah, it's if you're a Texas fan, a Texas player, a Texas alum, that's such a sad way to end, but that's baseball. That's baseball. I'm kind of liking this round of batting practice. Brady Marshall, obviously is strong, and he's squared up just about every ball he's offered at so far. And when you have strength and you have barrel skills, I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't on Vinny Cervino or Cade Scher's list of 10 when they get back to me tomorrow morning.
Well, we've seen Dylan Messina. Now we see Charles. There's Sean, Dylan, and Charles. All 16. Older brother Jake. Mentioned with Dylan. Charles plays for Mark Guthrie with the Florida Burn Scout team. Mark Guthrie, during his big league career, played with 8 different teams and won the World Series with the Twins in 1991. Was in the big leagues from 89 through, I believe it was the start of 89 of his big league career. Mark Guthrie played at LSU under Skip Berkman. Any similarities? I know we saw Dylan a short time ago, but any similarities that you saw between the Messina brothers?
Well, first of all, Dylan, I believe, was a switch hitter. And a little different body type and such. And Dylan looks solid as a switch hitter and all. So I think a little bit different athletically and such at this age.
This is Dallas Peoples from Atlanta, Georgia. .6'3", 180. Outfielder, left-handed pitcher. Dallas Peoples, his schools to consider: Virginia, Virginia Tech, TCU, Stanford, Oregon, Oklahoma. So ACC, Pac-12, SEC schools. Mike's watching Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna Jr. for the Atlanta Braves.
Now batting from Decatur, Georgia, Martin Scheller.
And Martin Scheller will stand in. Scheller from Decatur, Georgia, Marist High School. Schools that he's considering: Florida, Coastal Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech.
Scheller, another player, you look at his whole profile here. He's pitched up to 86. He plays the outfield. He plays the infield. He went through last month catcher drills at a Perfect Game Showcase and did so very well. Just an all-around athlete who literally plays every position on the field. You know, plenty of physicality at 6'1", 185 for a 15-year-old. And every once in a while, you look at young players and they're playing every position and all, and you say, well, when you get older, you'll narrow it down, just be a primary this or a primary that. But there are athletes who kind of thrive in that, I can play outfield one day and I can play catcher the next day and I can play shortstop the next day, and, who have that sort of athleticism that just lends itself to playing all over the field.
Noah Wilson for Team Red. Noah Wilson from Tennessee plays at the McCallie School for Tim Costo, who made it to the big leagues, I believe with the Cincinnati Reds organization.
Definitely with the Reds organization. A big 6'5", 220 player back in his early 20s who could play short. That kind of maybe before his time athlete with middle infield athleticism.
Wilson, one of the final hitters for Team Red. We'll have Team Royal and Team White to follow. That will wrap up day number 1 of the Sophomore National Showcase. Long afternoon for these players. Report time was earlier this afternoon. Waited around through the weather that rolled through. Rain this morning, rain this afternoon, and delayed at the start by a couple of hours. Rakakahi from Orange Lutheran High School in Irvine, California. Anything stand out for Rock for you, Dave?
It's a good directional swing. You love middle of the field player or infielders who are left-handed hitters. There's some strength there. Well-timed shift. Yeah, I think this is a real sound base swing. And of course, going to Orange Lutheran, one of the elite programs in the country, he's going to have good hitting fundamentals. That's almost an expectation, I would think, when I see Orange Lutheran down as his school.
Now batting from Cumming, Georgia, Jason Williams.
Jason Williams will be the final batter, I believe, for Team Red from Cumming, Georgia, and Denmark High School. Again, we'll have Team Royal and Team White to follow. Again, Team Black, Team Gray tomorrow morning for batting practice and then their first game. The 6 teams that we're highlighting here will play games on Thursday and wrap up with games on Friday. 8, 11, and 2 p.m. start times on the schedule. Jason Williams wraps up his round. Team Royal when we come back on PerfectGame.tv. Continuing on the Sophomore National Showcase from Marietta, Georgia, Parker Lowe standing in for Team Royal. Young man from Sarasota, Florida, IMG Academy, LSU commit. Shared on his PG profile, my recruiting experience was fairly short. LSU from the beginning was always a school I dreamed of being out. On top of that, being able to experience the campus and the coaching staff while attending the camp further influenced my choice. That from Parker Lowe.
Now batting from Williams Bay, Wisconsin, Matthew O'Grady.
Matthew O'Grady next for Team Royal. O'Grady from Williams Bay, Wisconsin, outfielder, Badger High School. There's Whitefish Bay, which is in the Milwaukee area. O'Grady, 5'11", 175, 15 years, 10 months. Bats from the right side, throws from the left side. Outfielder, first baseman.
That very rare breed of throws left, bats rights, right players. There have been a few, but not too many. Only one Hall of Famer that I'm aware of. That'd be Ricky Henderson.
Wrapped up Howard Bryant's book on Ricky Henderson back in February. Terrific read.
Haven't read that one.
It was really well done. I've always been a fan of Howard Bryant. And the history of the Oakland area where Ricky Henderson grew up. Although his family had moved from the south to the Oakland area.
Randy Ruiz.
Randy Ruiz up next for Team Royal. From Windermere, Florida, Windermere High School, where he plays for Eric Lassiter. Texas commit. Perhaps a future Longhorn down the road. A friend texted me today that Troy Tulowitzki apparently is in consideration. There's mutual interest between Tulowitzki and Miami.
I've seen Tulowitzki's name associated with a couple programs, in fact. I think that's something that he very, very much wants to pursue as the next step in his baseball career.
Talk about the Holiday family. at Oklahoma State. Robin Ventura was there, I believe, for 1 or 2 years and was a student at one point back at Oklahoma State. A lot more former big leaguers are on college campuses, on coaching staffs with Division I programs. We touched on it during the junior national showcase of former big leaguers being involved in the game on some level, wherever they decide to be, and the influence that they can have.
Nate Wade.
And for a number of those players, it is being involved in travel baseball. Some of which from a sponsorship, vein, Hunter Pence, who will be sharing the booth with Darren Sutton and myself for the PG All-American Classic in August. He's very active, or his organization is very active in Texas with travel baseball. I remember one of the very first programs that I became familiar with when I entered this area, 2 decades plus ago, was Chet Lemon's Juice. It was one of the best travel teams in the country back then. And it's sort of, there are always teams like that. John Cangelosi had a team that was in the finals at Jupiter one year out of Chicago. And the list can just go on and on and on about former big leaguers who just come back and want to be involved. And then you have the whole Major League Breakthrough Series program where Charlie Manuel has been the manager on all those teams, and so many of the great African-American players from this generation are out at perfect game events, at major league events, giving back to the young African-American players in the game today.
Nate Wade from St. Augustine, Florida. Perfect game high follow for the class of 2026, primarily a right-handed pitcher. And up next for Team Royal, we'll have Robert Turner. From Murphy, North Carolina. Perfect game, high follow, primarily a shortstop. Rain this afternoon. Dave Ronsley, you were right on board. 5 o'clock, it's going to clear out. We're good the rest of the way. Dave must have had some inside information from somewhere.
No, I have sat in that tower at East Cobb for 20 years. That was one of my little sub jobs back when Perfect Game. We would spend literally 3 or 4 weeks straight here at the East Cobb Complex running age group WWBA championships. And that was always one of my sub jobs, was watching the radar. And Jerry Ford used to cringe every time I sent out a text or something saying, "Hey guys," or something, because it wasn't like it is today when everybody can pull up on their cell phones, what the local radar is. Right. You had to be on a computer hooked up to the internet and be dialed into one of the 1 or 2 sites that would actually have something like that. And but that was back when we were running 72, 96 team tournaments and killing ourselves to do it, because you couldn't do it by cell phone. If you had a change of schedule, you had to call everybody individually. Every coach in a 96 team tournament, you had to call them individually to say your schedule has changed, because there was no website, there was no cell phones to make that available. And that's probably the biggest single change in travel baseball at this level in the last 20 years is the cell phone.
So the cell phone has had a positive influence in one facet of life, and that's a perfect game. And scheduling, and for parents.
Yes, for that ability to have it rain for 4 hours and then say, just post somewhere, we'll be starting at 5 o'clock. And you don't have to worry about people not being able to find out.
Well, I used to, in a 2-person front office for a minor league baseball team, the last place I wanted to be if it rained at 8 o'clock in the morning was by a phone. Because the phone, as soon as there was one drop or a cloud in the sky, are you playing at 7 o'clock at night? Those phone calls would start.
Oh, yes.
We see Andrew Barr at the plate for Team Royal from Longwood, Florida, like Brantley High School.
Now batting from Houston, Texas, Lawson Bahan.
Lawson Behan from Houston, Texas, Lamar High School. Lawson, as a freshman at Lamar High School, was a starting quarterback for the freshman team, starting guard in the winter for the basketball team, starting shortstop, and hit third in the lineup for the varsity baseball squad.
And
Was
Lamar
named to
is
the
a,
workout. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lamar is a big public school in Houston, and to do that as a freshman is impressive right there, because that's just not like, hey, I'm the best guy at a 100 people in your senior class school. That's a big public school in Houston, as any number of big-time big leaguers. I just looked at up here, Randall Greichuk would be the first Lamar, guy that comes to mind. So, that's a big-time accomplishment athletically for a young man.
Lawson Behan wraps up his round of batting practice. Bryce Bloom Timmons, also from Houston, Texas, like Behan, attends Episcopal High School, primarily a third baseman. Bloom Timmons goes 5'11", 180. Will turn 16 in the coming weeks. Plays for Matt Fox at Episcopal High School. Colleges that he's considering: Rice, Stanford, Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, TCU. Had just gotten started when they changed the rules. No longer able to talk and communicate for Division I baseball programs with 8th graders, 9th graders. This class of 2026, their next conversations with D1 programs August 1, going into their junior year, so a year from this August. Favorite player, Alex Bregman. Plays with swagger, intensity, backs it up. Lockdown fielder at third base.
Now batting from Bel
Alex
Air,
Bregman
Texas,
won the,
Nicholas Broyle.
that was called the Rawlings Home Run Derby Championship at the, I don't know what year national showcase that was, but he won the home run derby at his national showcase going into his senior year. You would think of that of Bregman, and we didn't right then, but he sure showed the power back as a teenager.
Nick Broyle, 6'2", 215, from Bel Air, Texas. College interests for Broyles: Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas. Big 12 and SEC schools. Royals, can you say barreling up a few here, Dave?
I would say so. Has some loft in his swing as well. Looks like more of a gap-to-gap approach, being towards the middle of the field.
Now batting from
Big stretch of baseball players from Texas. 1, 2, 3, 5 in a row, including James Jorgensen from Jesuit College Prep in Dallas, Texas. Primarily a shortstop. Oh, actually, before we get to Jorgensen, Grady Emerson from Argyle, Texas, TCU commit.
The number 4 ranked player in the 2026 class, and the highest ranked player actually in attendance here in Marietta, Georgia. Number 1 ranked player in the 2026 class, rookie Shepard from Las Vegas. Roselle rookie Shepard. And I really can't put a position on rookie because he literally plays all over still, as kind of a shortstop catcher and everything in between. He's so athletic.
Brady shares his mom, Deanna, his favorite meal, Frito pie. His mom is the one who makes him that meal.
Frito pie. I say that and go, wow, I sort of make the same kind of thing for my wife occasionally, so I guess I shouldn't say, oh, that's teenage food.
What are your main ingredients there?
Ground beef, cheese, and Fritos.
All right.
The good stuff.
Here is James Jorgensen. Mike Emerson, shortstop, primary position. Jesuit College Prep. Travel Team USA Prime National. Football quarterback, team captain, MVP, 5 touchdowns in 1 game in a victory. Shares on his PG profile. Baseball, District 6A Newcomer of the Year. Was a starting third baseman as a freshman. Lists his parents, Allie and Brian, as his role models.
That's a nice
James
swing.
Jorgensen wrapping up.
Yeah, that's a swing
Go ahead.
that he can. That's a swing he can really grow with over the, as he develops as a player. It's very simple. It's very in sync. He squared up almost everything there. Not trying to do anything big. No uppercut. No idea of lifting the ball. No idea of swinging out of your envelope. But just a nice, tight, quick turn type swing that just line drive after line drive.
Bradley McCafferty from Beverly, Massachusetts. Number 1 catcher, number 1 overall in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the class of 2026 from Perfect Game, 6'1", 186. 16 years, 11 months. And a Duke commit for McCafferty.
Another real good swing. For young hitters out there, what this swing tells me is short to the ball, long through the ball. I mean, you watch his hand path, and it's short, direct into contact, but he hits hitting through the ball with plenty, not the most on that one, but most of his swings had long and extension through that ball. And with extension, you know, it just becomes more solid contact, it becomes more power, it becomes more lift.
Bradley McCafferty wrapping up his round.
Now batting from Chesapeake, Virginia, Brian.
A couple more hitters for Team Royal, then we'll have our final group with Team White. Brian McIntyre from Chesapeake, Virginia, outfielder. Follow with his listing from Perfect Game. McIntyre goes 6'3", 185. Best perfect game grade of 7.5. Long arms like that, long legs with the stride. How do you keep your hands in?
It's how do you keep the operation short enough? That's going to be the big challenge for any big player. And even with a hitter the level of Aaron Judge, the big change that turned him into the 62 home run Aaron Judge was just a subtle change in hand path. But that's always going to be the biggest challenge for tall hitters, especially tall hitters with long arms and legs, is keeping it short and simple enough that you can get to that leverage that your length gives you an advantage on.
McIntyre concludes his round. Patty Roth due up next for Team Royal. Roth, right-handed pitcher from Chicago, Illinois commit. Number 3 right-hander and ranked number 9 overall in the state of Illinois by Perfect Game for his class of 2026. So next year, soon to be freshmen in high school, when they're coming to Marietta, Georgia for the Sophomore National Showcase, we won't have college commits. And really, I dare say we wouldn't have college interest.
I think
because you wouldn't know you'll have college interest from the player's perspective, I guess.
I think yeah, and those things that you're reading on the PG website are the college interests of the players. Mm-hmm. The schools that they are interested in, which is why when you see, I remember there was a player in the Junior National was interested in Harvard and MIT and stuff, and it's like, okay, that's where the player's interest is. I think you'll always see that on there. And these players are still able to go to camps. You can go to a Illinois camp for Patty Roth. You can go to a Clemson camp, a Miami camp. You can still go to the camps. The camps are not going to go away by any chance. You can visit the campuses as a family, and maybe your mom or dad went to the University of Florida or to Vanderbilt. There'll always be, that interest that, hey, that's where I'm interested the most in. It just won't be a position to really reciprocate it.
Hunter Watson, final hitter for Team Royal. Number 1 catcher, number 1 overall ranking for Perfect Game in the state of Oklahoma. believe we saw Hunter Watson in the outfield earlier. Someone who would have caught my eye.
Well, it's a 2022 14U Select Festival player.
Favorite player, Nolan Arenado. 4.0 GPA in the classroom, superintendent's high honor roll.
I laughed, Steve, because Hunter Watson, of course, a primary catcher, the number 5 ranked catcher in this class. Back when Nolan Arenado was going into his senior year in high school out in Southern California, scouts all wanted to make him a catcher because he played shortstop and he wasn't clearly fast enough to play shortstop, and they really wanted him to play catcher. Scouts would come in and work Arenado out behind the plate, and now he's become maybe one of the top 2 or 3 defensive third basemen of all time.
Our fourth and final group ready to go here at the Sophomore National Showcase in Marietta, Georgia. Jim Jenks sighting right there in the background, folks, with the hat on.
Someone tell Jim that the lights are on.
What was he doing there? Rylan Baker, first up for Team White.
Jim was running everything just like he always has and always does. The background guy behind everything we do here at PGTV.
I will declare, and I've said this to many people, one of the best bosses I've ever had. And we go back to our days at MLB Advanced Media in New York. Rylan Baker from Florida, the Bola School, where he plays for Mike Boswell, 5-star National Black Team for his travel program. Starting varsity running back, also on the varsity baseball team as a freshman.
The Bola School is a serious athletic school up in the Jacksonville area. It's most famous baseball alum, of course, being the great Chipper Jones.
Now batting from Gainesville, Georgia.
So Rylan, what will you be doing in 10 years? Graduated with a master's degree in business and running Baker Sports. That leaves a lot open to the mind. Is he going to be? It sounds like it would be an agency.
It does.
That comes to mind for me. Baker Sports. He's going to be an agent. He's going to run his own agency. Branson Crawford from Gainesville, Florida. Again, with the weather delay of about 3 hours or so in the Marietta, Georgia area, we got underway right around 5 p.m. Eastern. So tomorrow morning on PerfectGame.tv, Dave giving the thumbs up on the confirmation. Batting practice for the two teams that we did not see take BP here this evening from Marietta. That will be Team Black and Team Gray. That'll be at 8 a.m. Eastern. Then those two teams will play their scheduled game. It was originally scheduled for 8 a.m. and anticipating a 9 a.m. start time, as we'll have their rounds of batting practice.
Florida, Cody Goff.
Cody Goff introduced. Primary position, catcher. Touched on Cody earlier. For his workouts, he is listed as a switch hitter. 5'7", 165. Now he'll turn around and take 6 swings from the left side.
Sort of like sort of like being able to hit forehand from both sides. That's a tennis joke, Steve. I'm sorry.
You got it in there. I smiled. Folks can see that, right? A little stronger from the right side for Cody Goff?
I really don't think so. I like to swing from both sides.
Okay.
There's a looseness to it. There's an extension to it. Maybe a few more solid barrels this round, but there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the left-handed swing at all. So I'd be very encouraging to, especially as a catcher. How many switch-hitting catchers, are there at the upper levels of baseball, and how many have there ever been? It's really the most rare demographic out there.
Ethan Rathman, Miami commit, Windermere, Florida. Going back, was Matt Wieters one of the last truly solid switch hitting catchers at the big league level?
Well, he certainly is one of the few, but Adley Rutschman, of course, now being a left-handed hitter, he's really assumed that crown. But it's you'd have to do a lot of research to find a top 10 of switch hitting catchers, in Major League history. It's that rare a demographic.
Ethan Rathman completes his round of batting practice.
From Brandon, Mississippi, Henry Abt.
And here is Henry Abt. We saw Henry's older brother JP participate in the Junior National Showcase that wrapped up earlier today. Henry's favorite player, Mike Trout. Thing that he's improved most upon since the beginning of the year, his speed. Has participated in the Perfect Game All-American National Showcase prior. Henry shares last year he broke his back. Doesn't share where. Drove me crazy not being able to play. Learned how to focus on the small things and manage the mental side.
Now batting from Miami, Florida, Brian
Aaron Sutton's got a storyline there in the future. As we take a look at Brian Borges, stands in from the you know, how did a kid get out of Texas? How did a kid get out of Florida? You see Trip Hanna with the Oklahoma State commit.
Not really sure how it might happen because of some, you know, family connection.
Mm-hmm.
It is, you know, it does make you think maybe it was just a camp that worked out well with a family vacation or trip, and he saw the campus and any number of possible things.
Florida, Luis Hernandez.
Best sneakers in the event so far. Here is Mr. Hernandez, Luis Hernandez. Saw him on the infield earlier during the workout. From Sanford, Florida, primarily a shortstop, perfect game, top 1,000. Hernandez 6'4", 205 as a 15-year-old. Schools on his list include Miami, Florida State, Vanderbilt, and Texas.
I'm kind of wondering how long he's been 6'4". He's listed as shortstop and 6'4" and 15 years old. So I'm kind of doing a little quick check to see where that growth spurt was.
Loves watching O'Neal Cruz, who plays at 6'7" as a shortstop. And an interesting share from Hernandez on his PG profile, touching on the fact that with the rule changes, no longer able to talk to Division I programs, and he says he's fine with it. Wants to take his time and enjoy the process. And he shares, being a late bloomer, I feel like I'm a 3 out of a 10 right now, and says he has tons more to grow physically and mentally, so there's no hurry. Hurry in capital letters.
I love that attitude. I am looking back.
I thought you'd like that.
2 years ago to when he was 13 years old, and he was already 6'1", 180 as a 13-year-old. So if he has more growing to do, he's going to be a big young man. He already is a big young man. He's going to be a really big young man.
We see Andrew Mahoney from Novi, Michigan, Detroit Catholic Central. Plays for the Motor City Hit Dogs national team under Tony Leonard. I like that name.
Now batting from Fayetteville, Georgia, Brock Rain.
Brock Rain, Georgia commit from Fayetteville, Georgia. He lists Lloyd Thompson as his head coach for his travel ball team with Home Plate Thompson.
Home Plate Chili Dogs, the whole name of the organization. Synonymous with Lloyd Thompson since he founded it many, many years ago.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, Colton
And Brock Rain, here's a big league name, Tommy Gregg, head coach at Trinity Christian in Fayetteville, Georgia. What would you rate the Home Plate Chili Dogs uniforms and cap? Have you seen him before?
Oh yeah. Oh, I see Lloyd wearing a Chili Dogs cap all the time. I would rate that an A++. I wish we had had one right now to show it to the viewers of the original Chili Dog. And we're not talking about the one to consume. We're the one to talking about the one to be your companion and take for walks in the morning.
I used to collect minor league baseball hats. Maybe I have to start looking into the travel ball hats for programs around the country. Colton Springall. I don't know that I need any more hats, though.
One of the evolutions of with travel teams and equipment over the years is it used to be that Perfect Game provided the helmets for showcases, and it got to the point where every single kid has their travel team helmet with them now, and so we don't even bring helmets to tournaments anymore in case kids need them, because they all have their own, all from their travel club with the travel club, logos on them and such.
Well, you can take that down to Little League Baseball nowadays. You don't have that old bag. Remember the old bag with the 4 helmets, the 3 bats, and the catcher's gear, the 2 catcher's mitts. That trickle, that's the trickle down nowadays. Maximus wearing.
The most impressive thing I saw about Maximus wearing, watching him in game situations, is this is the kind of guy who gets the next level and is going to walk. An extreme degree. He would not open the zone on some really good older pitching for anything. 2 inches off the outside corner, 88. He would just go, hey, no problem. And once that ball was in the zone, though, he was exploding on it. He sees the ball very, very well in game situations.
Now batting from Powder Springs, Georgia, Colin White.
Our final hitters, Colin White for Team White here. From Powder Springs, Georgia, Georgia Tech commit. Perfect game ranking, number 50 nationally. For the class of 2026. Again, games tomorrow. 3 games on the schedule. Dave and I will have the first one. Dave with Brett Dolan, is that correct for the next 2?
I think so. I whatever happens. I'm just going to show up here at the right time and get ready to work. And whether I have you or Brett, I'll be thrilled just to be watching another baseball game.
Colin White, since January, where has he improved the most? Fastball has gone from the mid-80s. Now he's hitting low 90s. Favorite player to watch, Chris Sale of the Boston Red Sox. Loves the way he competes. And he's actually been compared to Chris Sale.
Well, that'll be fun to see. Does that wrap it up, Steve?
I think I heard a pick him up. No batting cage, but that is our schedule for tomorrow morning. Team Black, Team Gray, batting practice beginning at 8 a.m. And then Dave and I will have the call for Team Black, Team Gray getting underway at approximately 9 a.m. Eastern Time on PerfectGame.tv. Navy Red, Royal White, Brett Dolan, Dave Ronsley, noon and 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. That is the Thursday slate from the 2023 Sophomore National Showcase here in Marietta, Georgia. For Steve Banta, Dave Ronsley, and our entire PerfectGame.tv crew, I'm Steve Lennox. We say so long, good night, and farewell.